Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 225 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we are going to finish up with the Tier 5 modules build. Enjoy. So, the modules would be in the middle here, and the boards will probably come from the other side. Well, the actual module setup looks pretty small. It's going to be a little weird, but let's just do it on this side, so we have some logistics zone to work with. So based on these inputs, I don't think it really matters which one we start with. But let's go from left to right, as in smallest is on the left. And we're limited by the big one, so we would want 10 of these so we can do direct insertion. And before we line a bunch of them up here, because we got to figure out where the power poles will go, what kind of inputs do we have? Well, the biggest one has 6, which means we need 3 full belts of items here, although one of them is direct inserted, so that'll be a little nicer. But still, we basically need 3 full belts of things, which actually makes the direct insertion kind of difficult, because we would have 1, 2, 3, and then another machine that would be over here. Although, we could potentially make it a little narrower because, you see, both of these machines share a lot of stuff. So let's experiment here. Let's make this number 4. Number 5 would be on this side. And shared between them, solder, integrated electronics, module contacts, and speed logic boards. So, we can get rid of one of these because they share them. And then the question is, can we do a reach across from here? Not really, although we might be able to make it work with another space in here. No center belt, but to have an intermediate chest. So that would work. We want that chest set to 1. And then this would pull from here. And it would have to be right there to pull from this other belt. And then that one can be short. This one can be long to reach that one. And then that would reach over. Let's get some power in here. I want to check this. Get all the inserters where they need to be. Would that work? Over there, over there. Seems like it. So that would get the module transferred and 4 items into at least level 5 here. What it wouldn't have are the rubies, which could come down on their own belt from wherever, up or down. Probably would be going up in this situation. But we would pull in and then have a long-handed dropping for the output, which I'm not sure where it would go. We can just go down and just do it on one side of the belt so it's not super full. So let's check this one, make sure that it's good. Just put a power pole there. We want to get all this powered up here. So, solder, integrated electronics, module contacts, and the logic boards would come down on here and be shared between these two sides. The tier 4 module would be transferred between this chest right here, and then the rubies would come in here, and then the output goes down. So that gets that side taken care of. To get number 4, it's already basically got everything it needs. All it needs is to be handed off the module 3, which can come from here. And then the module 3 is made from module 2s and these other components, but that's just basically 2 belts worth of things. So it would be pretty standard. And I think that'll do it. We just need to repeat the process a couple of times. Here, gotta pull those out of there because that's relevant. So does it fit? Yep. That's pretty busy in there. So how many is that? We need 10 rows total. Which is this one, so these last two are not necessary. Probably have way too many power poles in here now. Okay, most of these are going to be coming from above. So we can just end those. We do need to have logic. So we're not just filling up these chests with tons of modules we don't need. So if speed module 4 is less than basically 1, turn on. The output goes down. Doesn't really need to because I don't think the modules are going to go anywhere, but down does make the most sense. And then the rubies are going to come from somewhere. Considering this thing's size, there's probably not going to be too much room for a road up here. Although the road could be down here and just go straight up like that. That might be a decent thing. Either way, if it's not like that, it's on the bus, so up probably makes the most sense for the rubies. So then the modules would come down and basically just end here. So we would want to have a storage chest with speed module 5s and connected. And I don't know, let's go with 1,000. So if we're doing really big setups, we might want a bunch of them. Well, we do need to make solder for all of this stuff, although we could combine it with this setup right here. Probably don't need to, but it could come out of one machine, so I guess we would be able to make it work. Yeah, so I'm not sure where the solder would be, probably somewhere over here. So these belts might not be facing the correct direction, but overall, the setup seems good. So you would come in and line it up. This other one. And maybe put a gap in there for safe measure. Let's try to get the belts we can get lined up. Yo. The transistors go to the side and beyond here. Let's make these the transistors. And the solder. Because those would just go that way. Let's do the integrated electronics. Which would need to be red, and it would keep going. Then the contacts, they can just go in and get combined. Solder and boards, which would come from the other side. And we would kind of need them to be red as well. They would be on the other side here. And combine probably with this, so we'll have to figure out where that goes. But I think we're looking good so far. Now we need to start building something that's real big. 95 units. Let's see, would we want to do direct insertion here? Nah, it's probably too big a discrepancy of machines to make that work. So we'd need to make the speed logic boards here. Based on this quantity, we would need a lot of them, so probably do want to do 2 separate belts. We'll just assume they need to be red. Where integrated electronics and transistors need to come in. And then the output needs to be in there. Do that and do near, so it's something that can be copied. And then on the other side, we need solder and those other 2 things. So one would be solder, one would be the other stuff. It would be another set of machines Something like that. Just to get an idea of scope. So that's 20. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to stack that up. The full height here. So there's 48. And let's see what that looks like. Looks pretty good as far as fitting. Then we need another one. Right there. And that would be our 96. So let's see here. On this one, could be the components. It looks like there will be 3 of them. Let's see, we need to get all these modules set up correctly, where these are speed modules. Level 4 has 1 efficiency. And level 3 has 2 of each. Ah, that actually put them in each machine. I don't want that. That's pretty rare for that to happen. When you try to put modules in a machine and it feeds it into the input instead. So level 2, then efficiency, efficiency. Let's see, it doesn't like it. Guess we gotta do them manually. Hopefully the robots can handle this later. Okay, so that is the input side of the components. And then it has the output, which I guess doesn't need to be near and far because they will be shared on this side. Although we might need to concern ourselves with getting power in all of this, but let's worry about that in a second. Now that we have this in here, we can try to reverse it. Kind of want to give it some power though, just to see how it looks. So we'd want to use this one, I believe. Yeah, because we have 2 belts of input, it means we need 2 inserters on each side, so we're definitely going to need to take up some room with these substations. Well, we got rid of 4 of them. Which means we need another 4. And these don't quite reach, but I think that's okay for now. The inserters look pretty good on this side. And size is reasonable. It's still fitting within the slot. One of these can be the crystals. Let's just make it the one on this side. And then the other one needs to be the boards and the solder. But since the solder goes to other places as well, it kind of makes sense to do this separately. We could put it down here, but since the boards would be coming down here, it makes sense for the solder to come down here and then also get sent this direction as well. Well, to do solder, we only need 2 machines. Just build them off to the side here. In that case, we could probably just run some power poles here, but they don't quite reach, so maybe just put 1 more substation in there for good measure. And these 2 machines are going to make a huge amount of solder. In that case, kind of want to split them up here because they're going to be close to the maximum of a belt here, so it'll be better. There's a tiny little space in there to allow them to fill that up. So this is solder for the whole setup, but we're also going to need the boards. But now that we kind of know this one's shape, we can also sort of pick it up and place it in here. Try to line up the bottom to be flat with the rest of them. Probably going to smash it in there for power reasons to make the wires reach. So now that we kind of know its position, we can figure out where everything goes, where this would be for the module boards, but this is kind of smushed in there. That's not good. Well, knowing that, might have to pick it up after all and move it a square back. I also kind of want to line all the machines up together, even though the substations kind of stick out a bit. Because now we can combine the boards in the middle, and we need solder in the middle as well, which would come up here. Let's get all the components lined up, which are on these two lines. There we go. That should get the job done. Now on this other side, we need to do all of the board making. So do the same thing where it's a line of them. It does use a fluid, so we might be able to kind of be inspired by what happened over there, where there's a line here, and we have relatively small numbers of inputs, and relatively small number of output. They can be distance changing inserters, so we can copy it over. And we need quite a few of them, so we can stack them a little bit. That's probably about the maximum. Could potentially do a little more. I guess it depends on how many we've got. 48. So actually, yeah, we would just copy it again. 34 would be the magic number. So we get rid of those. Copy it again. And there's our 68. Although this had 2 belts in the middle, where this one only has 1. So we might be able to take a square out of it by having it kind of go across like this. And then move it to the other side again. I wonder what the robots are waiting around for. They got confused. Are they just looking for somewhere to charge? I guess so. Okay, all of these only need to be fed by 2 assembling machines. Might be able to just kind of put them up here and make it look a little cleaner. Let's just pretend we are when we put them over here. So one does copper. One does silver. It has an input. It has an output. And then it can kind of go off to the side a bit. It's time to keep picking this up and moving it around. Sorry, bots. We can actually just kind of put this here. Have these be long-handed. And these be short. Then it would spin around. I'm going to try to line this up. But, well, let's take this out. Actually, could probably just go up and go around. That might be a little easier. So probably want to leave a space. Let's insert it on this first belt. Well, we need to be concerned with where these substations go. I guess we can line it up with down there so it looks kind of the same. So replace 2 of these with substations, which means we don't quite have enough. So we'll do 1 more row up here. And of course, the substations don't quite reach anymore. So 2 more. So let's get these on there. The other side, but switched to short. So now that we know which direction this needs to be pointed, we can get that in there. The fiberglass would come in from down here. All we're left with is outputs, which we can just kind of copy in here. And I think that does that part. So we have our output of boards right here. The input needs to happen right here, along with the solder, which also has to move down here as well. So it would probably come in from here. So how to stitch that in? Let's see, I think that much works. These can dead end right there. The solder keeps going, and in there. Well, like before, I have no idea if that's set up right or not. I guess we'll find out later. With all of that belt stuff. But we can combine all that in there. And then right here, we will need to do the boards and the solder. And then the crystals will come up through there. Alright, I think that's all the inserters in there. And all of the belts look like they're hooked up. This side isn't because these module contacts would be shared with one of these on the other side. Of course, flipping it around sounds painful, but we also want to make sure that this actually works first before committing to flipping it around. I think we're pretty good with the exception of some modules. Just want to make sure that we have the correct types in all of these. Basically, productivity in all of them. So all of those. Boom. And all of those as well. Well, before we place this, let's double check it to make sure that it's set up correctly. Where we have inputs there, which is the input of the logic board. And of course we have the fluids. And then the two plates are made right here. They put their output up there, and it gets injected into all of these. And then they output their finished item in the middle of both of these. They come up, get combined, go through this mess, and get placed on this belt right here. Also, on the other side of that belt comes the solder. So it comes up, gets injected, and then gets skipped to be injected on this one as well. But the boards come into this side. We'll also need the crystal shards, which will come in from right here and right here, while the other side shares the logic boards and the solder. So the only things we need now are the electronic components, which come from over here. So on this setup, they get split there, go around, place down, and then right there. So they're on these other downward belts, right there, and right there. And then going up are the finished boards, the blue boards, which will come up. It's raining bots with modules. So they all get combined and sent over here, being mixed in with the solder that was bypassed as well, and they get sent down into those machines. So what goes on with these? Well, we're going to have an input of speed module 3s coming up, getting pulled in. Also, it's going to have an input of transistors and solder. And it looks like we didn't put the solder on that belt, so that's a good thing we checked. Let's make sure the numbers aren't too crazy. Doesn't seem like it. So we would just need to merge it in here, but it's kind of difficult based on its position. Let's do something like this. Where that goes in. Then this one goes down. And then gets combined into there. That should work. Solder and transistors come down in there, as well as the modules from before. Let's see. They do also need speed logic boards, so we need an extra belt here. And actually this is placed in a really good spot for this, because then this can just go down. We just need to mix them with speed module 3s. So we can have this get combined. Go back right there. And then the speed module 3s would have to get in there somehow. I'm not sure what the best way to do that would be. But, they would probably come from the bus. So let's have this go down. Then get combined. So the speed module 3s would come from the bus somewhere. And the logic boards are coming in there to get mixed up and then back up in here. It is a little messy how that looks, but I'm not sure there's a better way to do it, because we wouldn't be taking the modules from up here. So anyway, we'll check this. We've got those 4 inputs now on this side, and then it ejects its output into this guy, which needs more boards, which are being placed in the middle along with solder. And those go down, and through all of this craziness are accessible to both sides. Meanwhile, on this one, it's combining transistors and integrated electronics, so they're accessible to both sides. And also rubies, which need to be used on this side. And then the module contacts are coming in through here and coming down, so everything is accessible to both sides. And then they shift level 4s across into this one, which picks up the level 4, and it uses all the same components, plus a ruby, which is going up there. And then its output comes down and gets stored in this chest, which is waiting for 1,000 of them. And then the other side here, the transistors require silicon wafer, silver wire, plastic bar. There's the silver wire and the wafers. And the plastic comes in here. It all gets injected in, injected out, and goes along the way. These guys kind of requires the same thing: silicon, plastic, insulated wire, and the acid. The acid is there. It's putting the wire on one, plastic on the other side of that, and then silicon on one side. And that's everything it needs, so it goes along. And then module contacts are very straightforward. Copper and silver get placed in here, and then they get processed and get split. Half of them are being used for these modules, and the other half would go on this side. And we want to double check, make sure everything has modules. Which it seems to. Everything has power too. And that's the end of this episode. On the next one, we are going to build the setup and see how it works. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.